Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome, and how are you doing today? As a CEO, one of the things that I've been focused on for the last year has been working on strategies to address burnout. I don't know about you. Look, it's been a strange year with COVID, and burnout has been a constant concern. People are getting holed up in their houses, working all kinds of longer, crazy hours. And as a CEO, I take it seriously that one of my responsibilities is to find ways to avoid it, if at all possible. And that isn't avoiding it by just saying I ignore it, I don't believe in it. Look, I've been in the innovation game for 40 years, and I've gone through my own cycles of burnout on past projects or, failures, whatever. So today's show are some of the things that I've tried, some of the things that have failed, both as a leader and as an individual on managing my own burnout. So I'm speaking from experience. I'm not sitting, do not take this, I'm sitting on some kind of mountaintop proclaiming. I've been in those positions where I've just run out of energy. The stress has just gotten to me, and I am just face down in the dirt. Total collapse from burnout. And look, as innovators, we are especially prone to burnout because there's an expectation that we can always be on, that we can tap into that magic creativity we have. Our organizations depend on us to come up with that next product or to solve a problem or whatever, right? So there's an expectation. As an innovator, we are especially prone to burnout. So this week's show, we're going to look specifically at how to avoid innovation burnout. How to avoid innovation burnout. And we're going to look at it in a couple different ways. But before we jump into today's segment, can you please like, follow, and share today's episode with someone who you think could benefit from hearing about this? Today's show is especially about helping people either in burnout today or who run the risk of burnout, or leaders who need to be aware of how the role they play in avoiding burnout within their organization. So please like, follow, and share. Share this show with someone you think could benefit. With that, let's jump in to this week's episode. So what comes to mind when you hear the term burnout? Now, the Webster's dictionary definition of burnout is that physical, emotional, mental exhaustion caused by excessive or prolonged stress. It occurs when we feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet the constant demand. And for innovators, it's that constant demand to come up with new ideas. So today I want to talk about how to avoid innovation burnout. Now, we've all been there. I've been in the innovation game 40 years now, have done hundreds, if not thousands, of products and technologies introduced, and I have gone through the burnout phase multiple times. Now, I will also be the first to admit that I didn't do a very good job of learning how to avoid it. I would have burnout and run smack into the wall where I would just totally just collapse. And I was of no use to anybody. My teams, my employer, my family, total just face down. And what I've learned over the years is there are mechanisms, there are things you can do to avoid burnout. Now, there's two parts to burnout, and we're going to talk about both of them today. So stick with it all the way to the end of the show. We're going to talk about one, if you are a leader if you are an innovation leader, what is it you can do to help your team avoid the burnout? Because it is much better to avoid it than to hit that wall. So we're going to talk about that. The second part is, what can you do as an individual to manage your own burnout? Don't expect your employer, don't expect your boss to be the one responsible. You need to take your own control. There's things that they can do, and we'll talk about that up front here with what leaders can do. But you as an individual, you need to manage, you need to control, you need to take ownership of the stage in your burnout risks. And what is it you can do? Now, what I'm going to share with you are the things that I've learned over the years, both from the times I smacked into the wall and totally, tanked myself on the burnout, and what is it I've learned and tried out, and it's actually worked. So you're going to hear both of those. So I'm going to be transparent here, and hopefully you find this helpful. If you're facing burnout now, talk to somebody. I'm going to start right there at the beginning before we get into this. If you found this show through searching online and you did, you're just looking for burnout, and you are facing burnout now, talk to somebody. Talk to your significant other. Talk to your boss. Talk to a peer you trust. Express to them what you're feeling, because it can be debilitating. It can be just total exhaustion, total, I don't know how to describe it, but the feeling when you have hit that wall is like nothing you have ever felt before. So if you are facing burnout right now, talk to somebody. I'm going to put that right up front here. Now, these two parts that I talked about, there's leaders and then there's the individual. What is it you need to do? If you don't address the burnout, if you don't try to avoid that burnout, if you wait until you say, well, I'm going to go until I collapse, and you don't deal with it ongoing, burnout can have that ability to impact not only your career, because if you hit burnout and you fail right at a critical time of a project or a deliverable or a launch or something, that's on you. You can have a career impact. It can have an impact on your family, on relationships. It can have a huge impact on just your happiness. Happy with life, happy with what you're doing, happy with your successes, happy with your creativity being exhibited. Burnout will impact all of those. So let's start off talking about leaders. As a leader, what is it you can do as a leader? One is right off the bat, eliminate time wasters. One of the things that I have found that fed my burnout was just this feeling that I had a whole bunch of busy work I was doing, and then the time for me to actually innovate was getting shrunk. I just felt that stress, and that stress buildup fed into my burnout. So what I've learned is eliminate time wasters. Now, as a leader, and now me as a CEO, I see this all the time, right? If I'm a CEO and I've got, 230, 240 people in my organization, if I ask somebody that I want to hear an update on something, or I would like to hear what their work, the project they're working on, that type of thing, they go into a tizzy and they go off and they'll spend weeks preparing slides and preparing, a report, and then they'll want to show it to some other people and get their feedback and get their input on it. All those. Well, now I've burned up inadvertently by just asking a very simple question. I've burned up a whole bunch of people's time and injected a huge amount of stress. This happened in spades at HP when I was CTO at HP. If I asked for somebody to give me an update or to walk me through a product roadmap, or something, if I was asking for a meeting with a team or whatever, they would literally lose weeks of productivity preparing to meet and present to me. And what I found is that there was this prep, and then there was the pre-meeting, and then there was the pre-meeting to the pre-meeting, and then there was the pre-meeting to the pre-meeting to the pre-meeting to the meeting. So there'd be a 1 hour meeting with me turned into 4, 5, 6 meetings of prep plus all the time creating the content. That is a time waster. It's a time waster. Now you're saying, how do I get updated as a leader? I actually now have pretty much instilled inside the organization is when you come in, if I've asked to have a conversation with you, it's to have a conversation. You're not allowed to bring prepared slides. I'm not looking for a handout that you're going to hand. We're going to sit across the table and we're going to have just a conversation. You're not being interviewed. It's not a performance review. It's simply a conversation. So I'm trying to change the dynamic, trying to get rid of those time wasters and what the impact is. And there's other time wasters. How many meetings do you have in a given week? All the things that aren't related directly to the innovator's work can be viewed as time wasters. Be diligent. Get them off your people's plates. Give them some breathing room. Give them some space. Rather than having a meeting every week at 10 o'clock, that's a forcing function that is stressful versus freeing up as much of time as possible for them to be able to work on their projects, work on their efforts, collaborate, etc. That will be a huge relief for potential burnout. The other is priorities. Be clear in setting priorities. People need to understand, I'm being asked to do this. Let me look at all the priorities that I've got. Is this a higher priority or is this a lower priority? And if it's a higher priority, then I slot it in. If it's a lower priority, it's fallen off the bottom. And they can tell people, look, I can only do 5 things. You've got number 6. Based on what I've been given as the priorities, you're number 6. Sorry, I just don't have the bandwidth right now to work on it. I might be able to work on it in a month or 2 weeks or whatever, but I can't work on it right now. And that's hard for people. People want to be able to say yes to everything. And this is a little bit of a change in how do you have to manage your culture so that people don't get looked upon negatively if they say no, and that people feel empowered to say no. And for us, and the way I do it as a CEO is we are big believers in OKRs, objectives and key results. If you're not familiar with the OKR structure, go out to Google, search for OKR. Andy Grove at Intel kind of formalized this concept of OKRs. There's been a whole bunch of books printed on it. There's OKR tools, etc. Take a look at it. It allows you to clearly define the objectives and the key results for the organization, and that is important. So again, priorities. Priorities give people kind of the guardrails. They know what they have to do. They kind of know what's important and what's important in priority order, so they know what they've got to focus on. Third area for leaders is to encourage, and in some cases, force downtime. Force downtime. People don't take vacations, particularly here in North America. We get so many weeks vacation. Most people do not take their vacation. Europe, on the other hand, people tend to take their vacations. They take their 1 month, in the summer, those types of things. And I think they've got it right. Because if you don't get away, if you don't take that break, your brain never gets to recharge. Your body never gets to recharge. You never get to recover. The stress depletes your energy, takes your energy and puts it in other areas. By getting the break, you replenish that energy that you're going to need for the next project, for that next activity, for the work that you're going to do after you take the break. As a CEO, one of the things that we put in place where I'm at is unlimited PTO, unlimited paid time off. Yes, truly, unlimited PTO. Now, we have to give some guidelines. There's all kinds of state and federal rules, believe me. You would not believe how hard it was as a CEO to do unlimited PTO because there's all kinds of state and federal laws that, in effect, do not allow you to do true unlimited PTO. Yes, as a CEO, I cannot give unlimited PTO in most states. It is strange. It is strange. So, but in our case, we give unlimited PTO, but most people don't take time off. We've gotten to the point where we actually work with managers, and we work with managers to actually keep an eye on their teams. And if they see an individual that's maybe struggling or who just came off of a big project or who's under a lot of pressure, to almost force them to take PTO. We also do things like we'll shut down the teams periodically. So, in fact, just this last weekend, we declared a company holiday. We shut down all of our facilities. We have 3 buildings, 3 facilities: Silicon Valley, Colorado, and Pennsylvania. We shut down all 3 buildings. We gave every employee an extra day off. Just shut down the entire building. The nice benefit from there is nobody's sending emails to anybody. Everybody's taking the time off, so the email traffic drops to 0, and that takes also some stress, and that feeds into, if you're taking the time off, truly disconnect. No email, no Slack, no checking your phone, no taking text messages, none of that. And in fact, when I have leaders in my organization take PTO time off, they have to name a proxy, somebody on their staff who is going to take over their role while they're on holiday or on PTO. And any decision made by that proxy cannot be counteracted by the leader when they come back. So if you put somebody into your chair to run your organization while you're gone, and let's say you're going to be gone for a couple of weeks, or maybe even longer if you're doing a big family vacation or something, and you'll be gone for 3 weeks to a foreign country, you put somebody into that seat. That person can make decisions. When you come back, you cannot counteract them. The role and reason for that is to truly empower that person to own the job, to do the job, not just tread water and stack up the work for you to come back. When you come back, it should not be a stack of work that's been waiting around for 3 weeks for you to come back before you can be productive. And if someone goes on PTO, then I'm watching. If I find that somebody's on PTO and they've sent a Slack message or they reply to an email or whatever, I immediately go to IT and I turn off their accounts. I turn them off until they come back from vacation. Because I have found that by getting people away, truly disconnecting it, they actually come back energized, much more productive, better ideas. And odds are, it's not like they're sitting on the beach and they're not thinking about work, but they let their subconscious go, and they come back with just unbelievably great solutions to problems that they were facing before they went on holiday or vacation. So truly disconnect. The other kind of, fourth area that I would think about from the leader's perspective is not just disconnect while you're out of the office, disconnect while you're in the office. Give your people permission to disconnect. Sitting at your office and having your phone chirp at you and getting notifications on your laptop that distract you. Give people permission. They don't have to be on call every minute. And as soon as they see a message from the boss, hurry up, I got to reply. Say it's okay that you can be disconnected for an hour or two, right? Change the header in your profile in your Slack message so people know that if you send me a message, I'm on quiet time. So it could be up to 2 hours before I reply. If something is really urgent, they can call you on your phone and ring your phone, right? But disconnect. Disconnect while you're in the office. Gets people into the flow. Gets people, focusing. They're not having the stress of constantly keeping one eye on the screen in case the boss, gives them, asks a question and they want to be really responsive and answer right away. So as a leader, give permission to your people on your team to go silent, to disappear. The other thing a leader needs to do is set boundaries. It's like the motto at Slack is work hard, then go home. In fact, they've set it up at Slack headquarters that you cannot send a Slack message to people after 6 p.m. And you cannot send Slack messages on the weekend. Right? Disconnect. Disconnect such that you can have other time, with other things that are important to you, whether that's hobbies, being outdoors, family, children, loved ones, whatever it is. As a leader, set expected boundaries. Now, in some cases, jobs don't allow you to shut off at 6 and have nothing on the weekend if you're a support organization, as an example. But work it out so people understand that it's okay that they're not online all the time. Set boundaries. Now, all of these things as a leader, they define, this lets your team be more, productive, more productive around innovation. It gives them time to recharge. Recharging is one of the key things to avoid that burnout. And it avoids the whole burnout wall issue, right? If you can avoid having somebody in your team smack into the wall and totally collapse because of stress and because of lack of feeling that they're not making progress, they're not being productive, so they work harder and harder. And the reason they're not being productive is you've got all this other junk flying around that distracts them. People feeling productive, and you give them breathing room, and you give them time to recharge and recover, you will avoid the burnout in your team. And if you can avoid that burnout on your team productivity will skyrocket. And in fact, and people don't believe this, but I'm a firm believer, and that is that by forcing your people to take that PTO time, and the unlimited PTO time that we've put in place, giving managers and employees that permission to take what time they need when they need it. They don't need to save it up. Oh, I've only got 3 weeks this year, and I've got a 2-week family reunion. I got to save up. I got to save. No. Quite personally, I don't think family reunions are recovery times. I can give you all kinds of stories on that from a personal perspective. You need that relaxation, that PTO time. If you can avoid that burnout wall issue, that is where you will see huge productivity. And by getting your people to take that time off, you will actually be highly more productive than keeping them chained to their desks. Okay? So that's the leader portion of burnout. Let's talk now about what you as an individual, what is it you can do for yourself in managing your risk of burnout? Number 1, invest in your physical and mental health. Think about it. Just like an athlete, you are an innovation athlete. You are expected to perform at a very high level. You are expected by your organization or by yourself having a self-expectation to be able to tap that creativity, to tap that human ingenuity, to come up with great ideas, to come up with innovations that are going to transform people's lives, transform your organization, be the next, billion-dollar product or service. You are an innovation athlete. So if you are an innovation athlete, investing in your health, both your physical and mental health, is critical. Athletes, they exercise, they get out, they practice what they do, they exercise their physical body, they find that keeping in shape is critically important. Also keeping your mental health. Athletes learn how to get themselves, mentally prepared for the work they need to do. You need to focus on your physical and mental health. So that includes being things about what is it you eat, your exercise, self-time, where you can just focus on something else to allow you to recharge, but also to feed your curiosity. It might be something totally unrelated to work. For me, it's photography. For me, it's this podcast. This podcast is my creative output. Sitting down and thinking about what I'm going to show and, putting together my studio such that we can produce the show and assembling a team and, all of that. This is one of my creative outputs. Not related to my work. It's not related to my job. I don't get paid to do this show, but this show is an example of my creative output. Number 2, You need to take ownership of recharging your batteries. You need to schedule your own time. You don't wait for your boss to force you to take vacation days or to get away. You need to take control. You need to manage how many ever days you have and use that accordingly to recharge. If you're self-employed, trust me, I did 13 startups before I had my first big success, my first company that I took to IPO. 13 startups. When you're the startup guy, right? You're mopping the floors, cleaning the toilets, and trying to build the product, and trying to go raise money, and trying to talk to the press to get, stories about, you're doing everything. And you're thinking, oh my God, I got to work 7 days a week. I got to work 18-hour days, and I've got to do this for 3 years before I get to success. No. And I think I would probably give that one of the reasons why my 13 startups failed. Either I founded them or I joined them and they did not work out. This is because the theory was you put in the hours, you put in whatever hours. Wrong answer. Schedule your time to recharge. And that includes a little bit of time every day, a little bit of time every week, a little bit of time every month, sometime every quarter, and something maybe a little bit longer once a year where you just kind of like totally go away. Leave all your electronics at home and go camp up in the Rocky Mountains, which is what's right behind me in the video if you're watching the video today. Disconnect, right? This social media thing is stressful. You're getting beeps, alerts, you're reading news, you don't agree with the news, you agree with that person, you don't agree with that person, arguments of flaring, no. Disconnect. Take a deep breath. Go away. That is part of what you can do to recharge. And if you're struggling, share your struggles with your leaders. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm kind of burning out, or I've got too many distractions, or, I've got, too much on my plate. I can't get what I need to get done because I've got to do meetings and all those kinds of things. You're not alone, right? And in fact, if you're feeling it, I would bet that other people on your team are also feeling it, or other people within your organization are also feeling it. And if that's the case, a good leader can step in and recognize that, hey, maybe we're at a stage here. We need to think about making some changes to address the risk of burnout across the entire team. So speak up. Be an inspiration to others by being willing to point out your own issues, like saying, hey, I'm getting burned out here. I got something's not. We got to change something here for me. Be willing to speak up. Last item, what you can do for individuals is find a community of peers. Find fellow innovators. That's important. They've been there. They've been through it. All of us that are innovators, we have been through the burnout. For me, I particularly have to be careful of not so much in the middle of the project. I can kind of muscle through. But when an innovation, like a product that I've developed, launches, I go right into the trough. I mean, I am nose down, flat out, face down. That's it. I'm done. Because I put it all on the field while I'm building that product or launching it, that new service. But once it launches and it's in the market, I am face down. I am checked out. So we've all been through it, and we all kind of know how each of us handles it. And as a result of that, you need to find a group of other innovators. Innovators that you can share your own. Hey, I'm really running into this burnout situation, and that you can also contribute to. Somebody else, maybe a younger, newer innovator, college student, an intern. You can kind of coach them saying, look, you're going to run into this burnout. Manage it ahead of time so you don't totally crash in the process. One community I would, if you're not familiar with finding an innovation community, and there's a lot of them all around the world, but if you're looking for one that's online, that is a global community, check out the Innovators community. That's the innovators.community. It's made up of everything from chief innovation officers from Fortune 1000, Global 1000 companies, all the way down to college students who are interested in innovation. It's a great community where you can share, you can ask for advice, you can identify people who maybe have more experience than you, or you can reach out and help somebody that maybe is, newer into the game. But check that out, the Innovators dot community. Now, what I've been talking about here is how to avoid innovation burnout. The key word is avoid. Avoid. You will be much better off if you take these practices, put them in place, not just think about them and, wow, that was an interesting thing to film in. No, do it. Do it. Actually apply it. Actually manage your time. If you're a leader, get rid of the distractions. Give your people breathing room. Give them permission. A lot of employees have come up through the ranks thinking that we're still, stuck in the 1990s management style where I've got to be there at 8:30. I can't leave before 5. I get my 3 weeks vacation, right? If you're a leader, give your people that permission to manage that burnout, to get that breathing room, to disconnect, to have that personal time, recharge their creativity, recharge their innovation, and you will have a one happier organization, but two, you'll also have a highly more productive. And as an individual, don't expect the organization or your boss to manage your risk of burnout. That is your responsibility. You need to make sure that as an innovation athlete, you are in the best possible shape to generate the best ideas that will go out there and change the world. Here's my one final piece of advice. Do not fluff this off. Burnout is serious, and it can seriously negatively impact your career, your family life, your happiness. So do not fluff it off. Take this seriously. Avoiding burnout is easily within reach with just some good self-management. So take what we covered in the main segment of the show and do it. And one of the key things to help you with burnout is join a community, join peers, join people who've been in the same position you're in today. And as an innovation athlete, as an innovator, you need to find other innovators. One place to do that is at the Innovators community. You can find that. You can just search for the Innovators community on Google. It'll pop up. Should be the number one on the search. Or you can go to theinnovators.community. It's free, no charge. You can join the community. It's made up of other innovators from around the world. There may be local innovators. And in fact, it has a mobile app, so you can do it from your phone or you can do it from a browser. And it'll actually tell you when you're near other people who are part of the community, so you never know. And you go back to traveling, you might be traveling in a city or a location from somebody who's actually part of the community in that city, and maybe you get together for dinner and talk innovation, whatever. But find peers, find people that you can talk to. So join the community. The one ask that I have for you, and I ask this every week, and I'll ask it again this week, is help me pay it forward. Help me pay it forward. This show was started back in 2005 because of Bob Davis, my mentor, asking me to pay it forward. I couldn't pay him back. He laughed when I asked him how to pay it back. He said, no, pay it forward. Pay it forward. Share your experiences, your lessons learned, so that others can benefit. And that's why we do the show. So help me pay it forward by telling others. Post on your social media, share our social media, like something, comment on it. That all helps us to get visibility. Post a review over on Apple or over on Google Podcast or wherever you get your podcast, over on Spotify or iHeart. Like it so other people can help us find the show. I would greatly appreciate that. We're also looking for ideas for upcoming shows. So drop me an email, phil@killerinnovations.com. That email comes directly to me. It doesn't go through anybody. It's not filtered or screened or whatever. It comes directly to me. If you've got a question or you've got a topic that you've always wondered, or you're facing an issue personally or in your job, maybe as an innovation leader, or if you're an innovation consultant and you're working with a client and you run into an issue, and you'd want to hear somebody else's thoughts on it, then send me a note. Send a note to phil@killerinnovations.com, and we'll add that to the list of topics that we can look at to do in the future here. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule this week. I do greatly appreciate the time. When you could be doing something else, but you're here listening to the show. I greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate that time. It's highly valuable, and I appreciate your investment in hopefully learning, benefiting, and expanding your own ability to generate ideas and generate innovations that are going to change the world. We will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.